Good evening and welcome to Creative Cabin Fever. This evening's guest needs no introduction within Waterford, possibly further afield. Stan Phillips, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Introduce yourself to anyone who doesn't know you.
Okay, well, I'm Stan Phillips. I'm locked away in my house. I can't come out. I've been around for a long time. I'm a poet. I'm a podcast maker. I'm a counsellor. I used to be a fortune teller. I don't do that anymore. But I'm just a happy guy getting on with life, and I'm very old. What more do you want?
Very little. You're an incredibly interesting character, and it's amazing to be able to do the show with you this evening.
I'm
So,
honoured.
Oh, thank you. I guess the first question I have for you, and that the first thing that I don't really know about you, is how did you end up in Waterford?
Well, let me put it this way. On July the 6th, 1994, I turned up at Jury's Hotel, as it was then, with a group of people. We were traveling around Waterford and traveling around the country, actually. We started off in right up in the north, somewhere up in Letterkenny. We worked our way all the way down, stopping at a hotel on the way, meeting people, chatting to people, telling their fortunes, doing all sorts of things. I finished up in Jury's Hotel on that day and met a lot of lovely people, and I met Bernadette on that day, and we sort of chatted, and where there was a major connection, and then I went away and got on with life and did all the things I did, and then I came back the following April, and we fell in love, and basically we've been together ever since. We came together in August of that year. Actually, because I'm an old romantic, really, because what today's date is the 6th of April, isn't it? So on the 10th of April, 1995, was the date of our first kiss. So I remember that vividly. And we're still together, so it's wonderful. Wonderful love story.
Oh, my poor heart.
Keep going. Yeah, that's how we came together. Lovely, lovely story.
Oh,
And,
I love romance.
so do I. I really am a romantic.
I'm a massive romantic myself, but it's unusual for a woman to be. I constantly get berated for it. Like, I'm the type of woman who'd buy a man flowers and get them delivered to his dressing room if he had a big performance. And they usually don't understand what I'm doing. So,
Oh well, that's the sad thing. If men could understand romance, if women could understand romance, what it really meant, it's actually not about buying flowers and buying chocolates. It is just being there, and remembering things, and the smile and the touch. It's not all about sort of passion and that sort of thing. Or that's important. It's just about. I always say about that is it's wonderful being in love and doing all the things you do, but what do you do for the rest of the day? You have to be able to talk and play and dance and laugh and read and be silent and argue. And all of those things, they all come together. And if the positives of a romance outweigh the negatives, that's fine. If it's the other way around, and we've all had those, then it's time to walk out the door. So there you go. That's me and romance in a nutshell. And that's how I came to be a Waterford.
beautiful, beautiful story. Yeah, my parents met in Waterford as well. My dad ended up over here by accident, kind of, and they met in a really lovely twist of fate as well. So that's truly beautiful.
Where's he from, your father?
My dad was born in
Where's he
Switzerland.
from, your father? Sorry?
My dad was born in Switzerland.
Switzerland. It's a very Italian name because they're just over the, not that
Well,
far
he is
away.
Italian, but he was born in Switzerland. So he's from Switzerland, but he's not Swiss because in Switzerland you have to have family that's Swiss for you to become Swiss. You don't just become Swiss from being born there.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. My roots are way back as well. My roots are East European, actually, Polish and Russian and Ukrainian, and they came over to England in the early part of the last century. And my parents were born here, but nobody else was. So I'm if ever England upsets Ireland, I'm East European. So there you go.
You're even more interesting than I anticipated. Imagine that.
Get away, get away. I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy who gets
So,
through life.
around Waterford, you would obviously be known for the fortune telling. That's true.
Yeah.
But the reason that most people my generation might know you is that famous prank phone call. Now, I have a story very close to my heart about that. I
Tell
listened to
me.
that all the way through my labour on my son Keanu because it got me through. So the laughter from that, to this day, it's still my go-to. Anytime I'm having a bad day, I will listen to that prank phone call and it will cheer me up incredible amounts. But I was curious to hear your backstory or your twang on that and how it's affected you or
But it didn't actually affect me an awful lot. It was just something that John contacted me and said, "How do you feel doing this prank call?" I had no idea how it was going to go. I sat there, and the phone call happened, and we just busked it all the way through. Well, John, I think, knew what he wanted to say, but I had no idea, and I sort of just responded and responded. And the lovely thing is, I mean, how old is your son now?
he's going to be 4 in May.
Was it 4 years ago that I did that?
No,
How amazing.
it's nearly, I'd say 8 or 9 years ago you
It's
did that.
got to be. Well, John and I, of course, are still friends. And when I do my podcast, he does the production of my podcast. I sort of go around to his little studio and we record the podcast there. So John and I are still fast friends. And he's a lovely, lovely guy. And yeah, people still talk about that prank call, although basically I've forgotten about it. And until you said that, the fact that it
I
reminded you.
listen to that still, I'm telling you, constantly. I'd say maybe 2,000 of the hits that has on YouTube, totally just me listening to it constantly.
I think it's lovely. I think it's a wonderful one. That's a wonderful one. So pleased about that. I should carry that story with me.
Please
Oh,
do.
how is lad? He's in bed now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's
He's
asleep
asleep
now.
now. Oh, bless him. Like, lovely. Their kids are wonderful. We've
They
just had a
are.
new grandchild as well. He was born
Congratulations.
in December. He was born. Little lad called Dylan. Gorgeous, gorgeous child. So that's it. So what
They're
more could
just
you ask? What
a
more?
world of possibility, they could be anything. It's so beautiful. They're just magic.
The way I look at it, um, Rebecca, is that I'm 82 in August, and if and we've got both of our children live to be that sort of age, we're looking at the 22nd century for goodness sake, and this is science fiction stuff. What will they know? What will they discover? All the things that lie in front of them. I think it's astonishing. The potential of life if as a society we don't bugger it up first, as we have the potential to keep on doing. We're doing it at the moment, actually. So hopefully we recover from this one. So there we go. There we go. What next? I'm enjoying this.
Oh, brilliant. So the next question is, when did you realize the power of your words? Because obviously you're an incredible writer and a beautiful poet. I enjoy your short stories as well. All of that is gorgeous to me. But when did you, as a person, realize the power of your words, Stan?
I still haven't realised it. I still don't know. I just have this urge, this need to put my words down on a page. Did you ever read the book I, Claudius? There was a very, very famous English writer called Robert Graves. He was a First World War poet. I met him in Hampstead back in the 1960s. And I said to him, just, how do you go about writing your books, Mr. Graves? And he said, the best way, young man, he's very tall, he has a wonderful shock of grey hair. And he said to me, you write a page a day for a year, and at the end of the year, you have a book that's 365 pages long. So I went off and did it. It was total rubbish, but I went off and did it. And this year, I started doing it again. And I wrote 151 pages over one period of time. And then I've just written another 157 pages. That's 2 stories that I've written 1 page a day religiously for the last 308 days. And it's working. So this is what goes out. But I don't write for money. You know, as a comedian, as a musician, as a whatever you do, that very few of us make money. Like actors, they don't make money. Most of them never make money. But you just do it because it's something you have. So whether there's power in my words, whatever it does, it's not something. It's not something that I think about. Oh, I'm writing because it's powerful. I write, Rebecca, because I have to. It's a catharsis. The more you, if it's in here, you have an emotion in your heart or in your soul or in your mind, and you get it out on a piece of paper. It doesn't sit in here anymore. It's gone. You have space for new experiences. So I don't think my words are powerful. They're just words. And if it affects the person who reads them, that's all that matters. I love that.
Yeah, you're right. There is a catharsis, but there's also, I suppose, a calling. We all have our calling. Like for me, comedy wasn't, I didn't know. I didn't know I was naturally funny. I mean, I made people laugh, but I didn't know it was kind of, at first, I think it was a defense mechanism. And then I learned how to use it to my advantage as opposed to just use it to protect myself. And then it
Yeah,
became this really powerful tool that helped me heal and become a better person. And that's when I harnessed the power of my comedy.
yeah. If you can make people laugh, if you can make them cry, if you can just touch them in some way as you go through life, it's a wonderful thing. I mean, it's lovely. I love to make people laugh. Too many people who do my work, sort of counselling, writing, spiritual stuff, things of the soul, think that you've got to be serious all the time. But you don't. You have to laugh. Laugh is, wasn't it Ken Dunn that used to talk about you've got to keep your chuckle muscle going? You know, just laugh. Find funny things. I think growing up, I had 2 brothers, a witty mother and a sister, and we were always sort of bandying words around and trying to think of funny things and puns. We were the most terrible punsters you could ever come across. Just to get the joke, just to get the joke, and then to sort of top the next person's joke. So it's all about laughter. At the end of the day, it's all about laughter. If the world started laughing rather than loathing, it would be a much better world.
No, you're completely right. Like even the way you made me smile during labor, I don't think there was many people that could have made me laugh during labor. You know what I mean?
I've never imagined that I would ever do anything quite like that. Maybe they'll have me go around sort of a maternity ward, sort of making all the women laugh.
Look, you were effectively sort of my birthing partner on that one, Stan.
Isn't that wonderful? I can't imagine that. Yes, I think it was probably better at that end than the other end for me. We won't go to that end. We'll just stick with the end bit. I mean, we got that lovely line. What's his date of birth?
The 12th of May 2016.
Oh, how interesting that is. But the my mother's birthday was the 13th of May, 1950.
He was actually born the day my great grandmother was died.
Oh, you're joking.
Not the same year, but the same date.
Yeah. I always think, when you meet somebody who, for whatever reason, reminds you of somebody else, there will always be a connection. At some level, there's some connection. And just focusing on that, you get amazing answers for people. really do. I love that. I love that.
I love that internet connectivity between us all as well, and all the synchronicities if we just pay enough attention. I
Oh
adore
yeah,
that.
yeah. And there's a woman in France who became a good friend of mine, and I'm sort of writing this sort of book, writing this story at the moment, which is untitled at the moment. I just call it another story, and it starts off in the East End of London and then moves to North London and Hampstead and places like that along the way. All the stories of that. And this woman got in touch with me and said, "Stan, everywhere you've been, I've been, and we're still finding connections." It's almost as if she followed me around everywhere I went. She was there a year later, meeting people. I just find that fascinating. We've become friends. She lived in France, and she's got a wild dog, and she came over to visit a little while ago. And you just meet people. Connections, connection, important, important. So there you go.
Yeah, that's
I like
incredible. I've met a few people, you're around them for years and years and you're in really close proximity, but you've never actually ever had the honor of actually bumping into each other. And especially in a town as small as Waterford, every so often these people crop up and I've never actually met them, but we're so closely connected, it makes no sense.
it's a soul journey. One day, when we're doing something very different, I will talk to you about soul. It goes back to the beginning of time. It goes back to the Big Bang, and we were together then, and we'll be together all the way through. And you don't have to meet all the time. You just see that person, and you recognize something in the eyes, and it's the soul thing, and that's all it needs to be. It's a way of life saying hi, everything's okay, everything's as it should be. It really, really is. So and we met, I think, once when you were sitting outside the coffee shop, and I walked by and we stopped and had a chat. And that was that moment. And that was like we'd known each other for years. Seriously. And that's the sign of a soul connection. That much good there. It's interesting.
It
So
is.
what's your next question? Come on, keep this going. I'm enjoying it.
Well, now that you mentioned the coffee shop, I'm going to skip ahead and just make a comment. Anna from the art would obviously be one of my best friends in the whole entire world. I actually call her my sunshine, and I believe she's most of Waterford's sunshine. To be honest, she brightens up everyone's day. But she commented and said that you were the loveliest man she'd ever met, and serving you tea in the morning with Bernadette was just one of those pure joys because you're just such a gentleman.
You make me cry. Oh, bless. Where did she meet me for the tea? Where was that?
I think she used to work in the tower.
Oh, of course. Yes, of course. Yes, I know. I do know. Yes. Nothing's open now. Everything's closed. I
Yeah,
can't go out.
me
But if I
either.
could go out, where would I go? Where can you go for a cup of tea? But someone said to us, what will be the first thing you do when this is over? We said, we'll go for breakfast somewhere. Can I go for breakfast anywhere? We love that, just sort of get out in the morning and go to Cafe Lucia and have a mini breakfast with a cup of tea. And, oh, can't do it anymore. Life has closed down on us. We're cocooned away. I think cocoon is the wrong word to use anyway, because the nice thing about cocoon is that you start off with the cocoon and you're shut away. But when you come out of that, when you go into that cocoon, you're a caterpillar. And society is a caterpillar. But when we come out of that cocoon, will society become a butterfly and fly away and do what it has to do? All those bright wings flying off into the unknown. Will society have the courage to do that? So we shall see.
We shall see, but I'm very hopeful for the butterfly scenario myself.
Me too. When you see Anna, send her my love, would you?
I will, of course, and of course she'll see this video and she'll be absolutely ashamed I mentioned her live.
I'll get out of here. She's a lovely lady. A lovely lady. I remember seeing her a few times now. It's all floods back. When you're my age, you see, memory is a vagrant thing. You never know where it's going to, whether it's going to happen, and You remember things that probably are inappropriate, that they sort of sneak up on you while you're not looking. That's why you write about it. Memories of long ago. There you go. Do you write?
No, I'm dyslexic, so I have a huge, like, even though I have so many words to use, I find mediums like this easier,
Oh yeah,
but I probably need to try and write.
yeah. It can be done. And isn't there an app you can get where you just speak the words and it goes onto the machine? Might be worth a thing to sort of say the word.
Yeah, there must be something like that, I'm sure that there definitely is. Because I was told from so young that I'd never be a writer, because one of my original dreams was to be a journalist, and I was always told you can't do it because you can't write and you're stupid. So it kind of stayed in my head, Stan, and I just have this massive blockage to believing that I can write.
I know those people who tell children those things. Oh, when I was a little boy, we were singing in assembly in the morning, and the teacher sort of walked up and down the rows. He stopped in front of me and he said, he told me to stop singing because my voice was so bad. Now I have never sung since. But had he said to me, Stan, we'll take you out, we'll teach you to sing, maybe I could have sung, because I love singing, I love music, we'll get to music, I'm sure, as we go through this conversation. But that man said I couldn't sing, so I don't sing. That guy or whoever told you you couldn't write, you can't write. And the mind of a child is such a receptive thing. You tell them they can do anything they want. They can be anything they want. They will do that. All of that. You need to be very careful with their words. As you well know, and you're going down that road at the moment, which thank God I don't have to do anymore. Children of somebody else is always somebody else I can give them back or not have anything to do with them at all. But they're a wonderful gift, a wonderful gift.
Yeah, no, I try to encourage Keanu. Like, I'm probably a little bit too free in other people's eyes with how understanding I am of my child, but how I see it is he only gets one shot at childhood, so he may as well enjoy it fully because we'll all be grown up soon enough.
Yeah, the time of childhood, it flashes by in a twinkling of an eye. And I have a daughter, an adopted daughter, who is now 40, 40 46. Yeah. And for me, she's still a child. She never grew up. And on the rare occasions when she dares to call me or talk to me, I'm surprised to be talking to this grown-up lady who's got a life, amazing. She's a long way away, but she lives in England, so I don't see her very much. That's life as well. And that will happen to Keanu. He'll go off and he'll do his life. He'll wander around the world and doing his thing. Just like yourself. You've got
Yeah, I
patience.
always say that. Well, my mom always said this to me. Always make sure to have your own life because children are only on loan to you. So if you don't allow yourself to be a full person when he's gone, you'll have nothing.
Exactly. Exactly. Although if I was going to be telling your fortune, which I'm not, I would say that between now and the end of September, you will be looking very much at life, looking at what you've achieved and what you've acquired, and very much what you need to get rid of, because you have decisions to make. Because next year, the year that starts with the 1st of October, is the beginning of the rest of your life. You have lots of changes to make. You have lots of decisions to make. You have new skills to use, or skills that you have but aren't using. You have a very, very interesting 2021 to come. New people, new places, new things. That's what I would tell you. So get rid of the old. Get rid of everything that you've got. Ambitions you're never going to fulfill, and You'll never be a sort of 17-year-old gymnast, so forget that one and all that sort of thing. It's all about the new stuff now, getting rid of the old, making spaces. So that's your fortune told for today. We might do more of that later on.
We can talk about more about that later on. So my question for you, which I think is a very important question to ask someone with such a beautiful way with words, what was the first poem or book you remember falling in love with, or even passage?
Could I have 3 books? Can I have 3 books?
Yes, you may.
I've got them here. Oh yeah. Look at that. Crappy old book. It's terrible. It was published in 1939, and I bought it it was given to me on the 7th of June, 1957, and it's called The Importance of Living. It's by a Chinese writer called Lin Yutang, and it's the art, the philosophy, the stories of China and how China and America and the West were trying to get together. And he wrote, there's poetry, there's philosophy, there's humor, the man as being a monkey, the mischief of the man, the idleness of a man. And Chin Chu Hang is going to die. He opened my door and sat on my floor. He drank my gravy and wanted some more. He sipped my wine and I couldn't tell what for. I'll bend my bow and shoot him at the wall. When he arrived at Shiat Lu, then he's going to fall. It's just a little poem that just was there. And he writes about the one thing I love. He writes about 33 happy moments. When you feel sad, think of a happy moment where your child, for example, can be screaming and wanting and being naughty all day, and then you put him to bed and kiss him, and it looks so sweet as he sleeps. And you come back into your room and you sit still and you take a deep breath. Is that not happiness? That's one of those. That is a wonderful book. The next book I've got here, called Unborn Son. It's not in publication. And I got this book for 1 6 in 1958, which was lovely enough the year Bernadette was born. I got it for 1 6 in a shop in Cecil Court in Leicester Square. And it's written Oliver Baldwin, was the renegade son of Stanley Baldwin, the English Prime Minister. And all his life he fought against everything his father believed, even to the extent of being a homosexual as well, which is okay. And it tells the story of a man's wish to leave something for a son. And he wrote to his son about all those things, philosophy and banking and warfare and literature and music and life. And at the end, of course, he doesn't have the son, it's to his unborn son. It is a beautiful book, and I've carried that with me all of my life. So what is it? 60 odd years I've had that. And the other one, this isn't the book, but this is, you'll have seen that one somewhere, where The Prophet by Khalil Gibran.
Yeah.
Now, I got my first copy of this in 1957, although this was a new one. And on the staff of The Prophet, was leaving the island where he lived for 12 years, and the people came to him with their questions before he went. And they asked him about marriage. What is marriage? What is love? What is work? What is giving? What is life? What is death? And I tell you something. You go into the book center and you'll see, go to any bookshop, there's shelf after shelf of self-help books. There is enough in these 100 pages. You don't need another one. It is there, and you just take it. It's a beautiful book. So those are my 3 books, and they have, I've carried them through my life. There's others, of course, but those 3 have been with me for I've probably moved 30 times. I've always moved. This time in Warford, is the longest I've ever been anywhere. I went to 17 schools as a child. I've always been moving. I think my father believed you couldn't hit a moving target. So those are my books. Poetry, I suppose, the first, lots of poems. I love Dylan Thomas. I went to, I did a pilgrimage once to his hometown in, in Wales, and I stood behind the boatman's shed where he did his writing and looked in and saw the beer bottles on the table under the desk, all the writing. Amazing. But his Do Not Go Gently Into the Good Night was wonderful. I loved that. And his Undermill Wood, verse for play for radio in verse, wrote that in the late 40s. That was very important to me. I love that. I still do. But the poem, I think that I first loved best of all, and I dug it out because I knew you were going to ask me the question. Shall I read it to you?
Yes, please.
Okay. I must go down to the sea again, to the lonely sea and the sky. And all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by. And the wheels kick and the wind song and the white sail shaking, and a grey mist, sea's face, and a grey dawn breaking. I must down to the sea again, for the call of the running tide is a wild call, a clear call that may not be denied. And all I ask is a windy day with the white clouds flying, and the flung spray, and the blown spume, and the seagulls crying. I must down to the seas again, to the vagrant gypsy life, to the gold way, and the whale's way, where the wind's like a wetted knife. And all I ask is a merry yarn from a laughing fellow rover, and a quiet sleep, and a sweet dream when the long trick's over. John Masefield, wonderful poet. And I remember learning that when I was about 8 in a little school in the East End of London. So I love that poet.
That was really beautiful, and obviously with the nautical team, like I have an obsession with all things ocean.
Of course. Well, that's where we come from, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose.
Do you ever stand looking at the sea and feel drawn in? And then you have the tall ships that come in, and everyone's fascinated as those ships go out to sea. The sea is calling us back, and as a society, we are destroying the sea. We've got to stop, because the more we kill life, when the last fish is pulled out of the water, when the last whale dies because it's got nothing to eat, and we go to what the God does. What's your favourite poem?
My favorite poem
Yeah.
is a French author called Jacques Prévert. When I was learning to read when I was 9 or 10, my parents had a best friend who had a son called Carlo, and he taught me how to read. But I had no interest in learning how to read normally. I was obsessed with complex poems. So I learned a poem by Jacques Prévert. It's about a man.
Jacques Prévert.
Yeah.
Oh, I love. We'll get to that later.
It's about a man going to a slave market to try and rescue his wife.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
It's very powerful.
He was a powerful writer. Some of his songs were amazing, really amazing stuff. Amazing. I love French music. You'll be asking me about my favourite song later on, and we'll sort that out.
I will. And my favourite book is The Little Prince.
Oh, isn't that Oscar Wilde?
No, The Little Prince is also a French author called Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. And it's more a philosophy book than it is a children's book. For some strange reason, people have completely missed the point. But it's beautiful.
People miss the point on a regular basis, my dear. That's the nature of people. We sometimes miss the point deliberately. But that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. But I love. I don't read it in French. I can't read French. But I just have an affinity. I remember sitting in Paris in about 20 odd years ago with Bernadette. We went to the left bank and we walked up past oh, oh, the Deux Magots, that wonderful bar which you saw in American in Paris. And I sat outside uh, Shakespeare and Company's bookshop. Have you ever been there?
No.
Shakespeare's was set up in the 20s, I think. And it was a haunt for people like sort of Hemingway and Jean-Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir. And they went there and there were beds. They used to sleep there and talk there and discuss philosophy and revolution and everything like that. And I sat outside there and I burst into tears because it was just a wonderful feeling sitting there with the Seine going one way and the church that burned down recently on the other side, on the Ile de France. And I burst into tears because it was like coming home. Wonderful. Am I talking too much?
No, you're doing perfectly. I'm really enjoying the stories, Stan, so thank you so much for sharing them. My grandmother, Audrey, you would have loved her. She used to work for the UN and she was one of the first female secretaries to take notes in meetings. But when she retired, like she was always dreaming to be an author. So when she retired, lots of different segues happened, and I'll talk to them in private. But one of the things she did do was she would collect rare books and sell them at auctions.
Yeah.
She was just fascinating. Unfortunately, she died when I was 19, so I was just coming out of the teenage years and into womanhood, and I probably missed out on a lot of stories because of
With
them.
the, as people, we only appreciate our forebears when they're gone. My grandparents, obviously because of their history, coming from where they came and the difficulties that made them flee, um, I lost to history because I didn't ask enough stories, and now I wish I had. And my children, my grandchildren, my adopted daughter, my two stepsons, they'll wait till after I'm dead before they ever ask me a story, and they'll all be gone. So that's a message I get to people. Old people tell your stories to the young people. Ask for stories of their old, because once they're gone forever. Support the history.
There's actually a beautiful initiative happening worldwide now, where when we're in captivity, as we are at the moment, there is the option to adopt a grandparent. So you can have video conferencing calls like the one we're having now with different people from all over the world to make sure that people that are elderly and have nobody actually have
Yeah,
someone to talk to.
yeah, it's so important because we don't know. I mean, like I'm talking, my kids and and even Bernadette, because I'm so much older than she is. She has no conception of my history. She's got ideas, but back in the 50s, caught up in the coffee bar scene in Soho in London, meeting people like I don't know, Tommy Steele and Cliff Richard and that whole sort of coffee making, coffee drinking. Oh, it was a whole different world. The music that we made, the skiffle groups. Um, I was there. I was in that space. It's they won't know. They won't know. It's, that's why I write. At least I get it out. I get it out. And not everything I write is true, but I've developed a way of sort of making it feel as if it's true. But if it didn't happen to me, it happened to somebody else. And I just make it happen to the character that's involved. My father was a great storyteller as well, so not as well, but he was a great storyteller. He he when let's talk about my dad because he was an interesting character. He was a blighter, he really was. He was a scoundrel of the highest order. But when he was a young man, he was unmanageable. So they sent him off to Brazil, where we have family in Brazil, and he was also a rascal there. And he ran away a few times. and he learned to play the violin. And he was he played the violin in sort of mariachi bands that were going around Brazil. And he was so unmanageable, they sent him back, and whatever. He was an interesting guy. Then the war came. God knows what would happen if the war hadn't come in and started an upward, probably. But he was an interesting man. Lived to be 95. So I'm hoping for a few more. Interesting man.
But of course he must have been, because you're an interesting man, you know. The apple doesn't very fall far from the tree, you know.
Well, this apple, yeah. Yeah, I've had my adventures. I've had my adventures. Some of them are printable, some of them are repeatable. But tell you, it was. I think the problem I had was that I tried to do a proper job for too long. I was never ever going to be a businessman, but I got caught up in retail and business, and it never really fitted. So when I came to Ireland, I stopped being a businessman and became whatever I am now. It's not financially rewarding, but it's not more fun. You know, being alive and being happy and knowing people like you, and maybe teaching people of your generation that it doesn't all happen at once. Sometimes we have to wait until we're 50 or 60. It's waiting for you. Whatever it is you're looking for, don't push it. You can come. It's waiting for you. So whatever it is you're looking for in life, you don't have to know what it is. It's waiting for you. Stand it there. That's important. So there you go. There you go.
Yeah, it's quite a complex thing to talk about, because you're right, people of my generation and younger are so used to everything being so instant and an easy fix or a solution, that sometimes the patience game or the waiting for the universe to provide whatever is going to happen next can be quite perplexing and puzzling and almost not annoying, but just irritating.
Yeah. But what do you do when you've got everything? I mean, I know young couples who get married and they get the house, and the house is complete. Everything they need is in there, and they move in. What do they do? What do they strive for? It is about my philosophy is that life needs to be lived one day at a time, and all we ever need to do is what that day presents us with. We let go of yesterday. Yesterday's gone. We learn from that. And we prepare for tomorrow. That's why we buy insurance and things like that and put money into a pension pot. But once we've planned for tomorrow, I mean, there's a lot of people who planned for tomorrow that didn't actually happen because their jobs got cancelled, their jobs went to the wall, all those things, they're not happening. The future became nonsense. So what it tells you is to live the astonishment of the unfolding moment. All you and I have is this moment. We have nothing else. And this is reality. Everything else is open for debate. And nothing has to happen except what we're doing now. And that's, if you live your moment properly, squeeze the juice of it dry, you do that, then you arrive at a place that is right for you. You push life, you push it away.
And it's so funny you should say that, because when I was about 19 years old, I got a tattoo on my back, and it's a Japanese lotus. And in the middle of it is a symbol for tomorrow. And obviously, you probably know this, but a lotus is a symbol for rebirth and tomorrow. So it means every day a new beginning. And that's something I feel passionately in my soul, because nothing else, you know, like, you could mess up 100 million times. If you wake up today and you're like, I'm going to fix everything and I'm going to try every day to be better, then nothing really matters. That stuff is irrelevant to a point. I mean, within reason. I'm not saying let's break the law, Stan, and hope for the best, but you understand what I mean.
I do. We're born again. Each new day brings us a new opportunity. Then tomorrow I'm right, even if yesterday was a complete mistake, if yesterday was a total all that the expression, if you learn from it, if you learn from that, then you've got a chance to make tomorrow right. You need to have people around you who will understand that, because other people, their needs and their desires will always get in the way of ours. So somewhere we have to look after us before we look after them. To be comfortable in your own skin, if you can do that, then you're fine. It works. You've got a lovely smile. I like that. Every now and then you smile at them, don't I? Simple. Come on, press on. Let's go to the next question.
Sorry, I was enjoying that too much. Okay, so what was the first song you fell in love with, Stan?
Oh, song. Music has been my life. And the first song goes way back. But I said, if there's a song that I could have played at my funeral, it would be La Mer by Charles Trenet. If I could have that played at my funeral, it's for some reason or other, it touches me. It makes me want to weep. It is about the sea and all its glory, the life of it, the endlessness of it, and my own feeling that whatever we do, however we mess up our world, when we're gone and forgotten, the sea will still wash over those shores. The sea is eternal, and it will bring forth new life. But that joyful, glorious song, sung by that amazing Charles Trenet, is it would be one I'd have played at my funeral. Of course, there's others. There's songs by Al Bowley. There's songs by Steve Cochran, Edith Piaf, of course. I love Edith Piaf. I love the music of the Neapolitans, Giuseppe Di Stefano, or South American music. Wonderful music. La Paloma, think about that Spanish music. But of all of them, I would have, first of all, the Charles Trenet, then something by Edith Piaf. And of course, maybe something by George Gershwin. Oh, wonderful. American in Paris, or Singing in the Rain, something like that. Music is my life, and that's what I'm using this lockdown for. I sort of get up in the morning, I check. I'm well aware of the fact that there's a lot of people suffering and dying, and they're ill in the world. And my love and my thoughts go out to them. I can do nothing to save them except stay indoors. So I stay indoors. I wake up in the morning, and not that I sleep at all. I can sleep about 2 or 3 hours anyway. I listen to music. I post music on Facebook. I do my monthly podcast, and that's important. So music, I think I said to you, what did I say to you or somebody else? That with music, you either forget everything or remember everything. I think that's what I feel. Because it's when old people with dementia or Alzheimer's, and they can't remember their name, and they don't know whether you're your son or your friend or whoever you are, but you sing "My Old Man's a Dustman" to them, and they'll dance. They don't forget. I have this lovely theory about music. I did an interview for somebody at Cork University a few years ago, and they said, "Tell me what music is." And I said, "There's a theory going around that there's another dimension. The universe is not the only universe. There are multi-universes. And there's our universe, which is what it is. And there's another universe, which is made up of music. It's just pure music. And every now and then, that universe and our universe just touch. It just touch. And the music bleeds into ours. And you have moments like when Bach and Haydn and Handel and people of that generation and Mozart, they were young and they were able to hear the music. Nobody else could. They heard that music that led in from that other dimension, and they gave us our music, and it's gone on from there. And there's probably another music which is a philosophy music, because there was a time when a philosophy universe, and that bled in about 2500 BC, around the time of sort of Buddha and Homer and Aristotle and Socrates and all those people, those religions that started up around that time. So that philosophy came in, and those universes bleed into us. It might be a crazy crackpot theory, but it's a nice one. I quite enjoy it. It's just a theory.
I find that really interesting. Now, Stan, I'm just going to have to go for 1 second because my son has decided to wake up. So I'll try bring him out here and see how he goes. But what I'll do is I'll just pause this for 1 second. I'm terribly sorry. So unfortunately, we had to pause the video there for a second because my little angel woke up, and this is just the reality of me performing these interviews.
We were talking about reality. Live in the moment. That's what it's all about. So there we are.
There we are. So Stan, that was a really interesting thing about music. One of the stories I share often about myself and Keanu. Nobody else heard the song, only you, and very, very few people have ever heard that song actually. But one of the things that calms Keanu whenever he gets upset is a song that came to me when he was supposed to come to me. So at first I heard a melody, and when Keanu was born, the words came with him. But I'd heard of a tribe in Africa where women, when they're trying to conceive a baby, they go sit under a tree and they hear a song. And I'd had several miscarriages before Keanu, unfortunately. And after I read that article, the song came, and then Keanu came.
That's wonderful. Music makes everything right. It really does. Just sit down and listen to music. I'm lucky I have this wide range of music, anything from the 1700s to the mid 1900s. I'm not much after the 1960s, although I was at school with one of the, have you heard of the Shadows, Cliff Richard band? Well, I was at school with their drummer, a guy called Brian Bennett, and he and I were great friends at school, and we didn't see each other much after the 1950s when he sort of went off, and he wanted me to go with him, but I didn't. I sort of stayed in a little shop. That was my moment where I could have broken free, but he went on and became this sort of drummer, composer, and I met up again with him when the Shadows did a reunion tour, the 1990 somewhere, and or 1985, something like that. And we met up, and I met the group, Bruce and Hank and him, and we all sort of sat around chatting about old days, and that was something special. That was my real introduction, sort of like to rock music. It was an amazing job of Brian Leather, amazing job. And I know you were going to ask me about gigs. I didn't do a lot of gigs. That was one of my few gigs. That and the Monkeys. I went to see the Monkeys.
Wow.
When they did they were amazing. They really were. I think we lost one of them, didn't we? Peter Talk a couple of days ago, and that was sad. But, they were a great group. But of course, there was the Soho crowd in the 50s. So I've had me few gig things. But for me, a gig was going to the Albert Hall and seeing a concert there, Tchaikovsky or Beethoven or Grieg or whatever. And that they were my gig going days. I spent all my money on them. He's a lovely little boy. He really is.
Thank you.
And if you want to bring this to a close, so he can.
I may need to get him back to bed. I think we've had pretty much everything that needed to be said anyway, so that worked out really well. And you also got to discover a song that nobody else knows.
Exactly. And that's what life is all about. And the fact that, in a way, I was there when he was born.
Yeah, you know this baby before he even came out.
Absolutely. Isn't that wonderful?
It's been
Well,
a beautiful chat, and obviously me and you will continue our long-standing friendship anyway, so I'm sure I have many more stories to look forward
we
to.
come again when
But
all
anyone
this is
else
over.
lucky enough to hear these stories tonight, you know,
There's a
that's
lot
the
more to
beauty.
come, and there's lots more. Bless you, David. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Stan. And look, I'll talk to you very, very soon. And thank you so much for sharing everything. Will you say goodbye to Stan? No?
Bye.
Have a
That's okay.
wonderful
I'm going to
evening.
as
Thank you
well.
so much, Stan. Bye.
Take care, David. Bye.